In this video we will discuss about this Warburg effect and some of the reasons why which there is no general consensus yet been established about this Warburg effect. Warburg effect is mainly occurs in the cancer cells where they need to utilize or they need the rapid productions of the ATPs, even though the productions of ATP is not at its efficient level. For examples, this in normal case aerobic glycolysis process occurs and which will give rise to the optimum number of ATPs from the glucose, but the kinetics of this glucose aerobic glycolysis is slower compared to the case where glucose is converted into the lactate, and since the kinetic is high it will cause more amount of ATP productions. However, if we compare with this same amount of glucose, the amount of ATP formations is almost comparable to the aerobic glycolysis case and to the case where glucose is converted into the lactate. So how this glucose to lactate conversion occurs is glucose undergoes to pyruvate process, and this pyruvate process then goes to this lactate formation that will cause the ATP productions. And so these things are initially been found out by Warburg. That's why it is called Warburg effect. And some of the main questions because of which the people have yet to understand how this Warburg effect triggered is shown here. First one is this rapid ATP synthesis. It will cause the increased access to the limited energy source, and because of that the surrounding area gets deprived of the energy, and since the overall process is inefficient, more amount of nutrients is required by the more amount of glucose is required by the tumor cells to form same amount of ATPs. And second one is this biosynthesis, and the reasons on why it is done. The proposal is that it promotes flux into the biosynthetic pathways, and the reason and the problem in this case is that since the biosynthesis because of this biosynthesis the flux rate increases, but the other metabolic pathways are not able to cope up to this increased metabolic rate, and that will cause the more loss in homeostasis within the tumor cells, and the tumor cells will only focus on this growth rate without maintaining the other necessary components that is essentials for the functioning of the cells. Next one is this tumor microenvironment. That thing that I have discussed, that it will enhance disruptions in the tumor architecture and immune cells, and since it will the amount of glucose required is increased in the tumor case because of its internal changes in the metabolic pathways for the productions of ATP, as now they will use this glucose to lactate conversions for the ATP productions. It will cause the surrounding environments to get deprived of the energy, and that might one of the reasons why this tumor microenvironment might formed around the cells, which is deprived of the nutrients that is essential for their survivals. Next, and the last main questions is about cell signaling, and the cell signalings that it will divert the cells towards this ROS or chromatin modulations. However, these things are still not yet clear why this specificity occurs when this lactate cellular intracellular changes occurs from glucose aerobic glycolysis to lactate formations. The cross reactions or the cross interactions between this glucose to lactate process and these ROS formations and chromatin modulations is not yet been established clearly. And what are the metabolites, or why would metabolites levels be influenced by the flux, and these two things need to be answered in order to understand why these changes occurs, that is ROS formations and these chromatin modulations whenever the cell switches from aerobic glycolysis to lactate formations. These are the four major questions that are still needs to be answered in order to understand why the tumor cell acquired these Warburg characteristics. So I hope you understood some of the basic informations about this Warburg effect and what are the main points that are still under research or still under discussion. If you need to understand more about these topics in detail, you can go through the reference that has been provided in the description, where you will find the detailed uh, informations about each topic. That's all for this video. Thank you for your time.